Let me ask you something. If you knew a house was on fire, like visibly burning flames coming out of the windows, would you walk in? Especially if you had no reason to be there in the first place. Nobody needs to be rescued. No personal belongings there. Nada. Nothing. Of course not. That's not courage. That's not proving a point. That's just not smart. Now hold that image, because today I want to talk about a burning house that a lot of us already know exists. And what happens when people walk into it anyway? I'm talking about the American judicial system and 2 cases out of Texas that have the internet fired up right now. First, my heart goes out to the victims. And I understand that no amount of time feels like justice when you've lost a loved one permanently. In 2022, an 18-year-old white student named Kason Allison stabbed his classmate to death in a school bathroom in Belton, Texas. He confessed. It was on video. He ran from the scene. His jury found him not guilty of murder, not guilty of manslaughter. They convicted him of the lowest possible charge, criminally negligent homicide, and he received the maximum sentence for that charge, 10 years. But let's be clear. The decision to charge him with the lesser offense started long before a jury was ever seated. That's the DA's office. That's the charging level. And that's also where bias can operate quietly before any of us are watching. Now, fast forward to 2025. 17-year-old black student Carmelo Anthony stabbed a student from a rival school at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. He was convicted of first-degree murder, 35 years. Same state, same type of weapon, 2 teenagers, 2 radically different outcomes. Now, and I need you to hear me clearly, these are not identical cases. The legal facts differ. Allison's defense centered on fear and bullying. Carmelo was found to be the aggressor by multiple witnesses. He reached into a bag and said, "Touch me and see what happens," before he pulled that knife. His jury rejected a self-defense claim after 4 days of testimony. So the outcomes aren't simply a 1-to-1 racial swap. But here's what is legitimate to examine. Carmelo's jury reportedly had 0 black jurors. 0. In a racially charged case that drew national attention. And that's where the social psychology kicks in. There's a well-documented phenomenon in social psychology called adultification bias. Simply put, black children are consistently perceived as older, less innocent, and more culpable than their white peers of the same age. Research shows this is true for black girls as young as 5 and for black boys beginning around the age of 10. And the research goes even deeper than that. Studies show that black children are significantly more likely to be misread as angry, even when they're not displaying anger at all. The older a black boy is perceived to be, the worse that misreading gets. What that means in a courtroom is this. A jury may look at a 17-year-old black kid and perceive a calculating, angry adult. They may look at an 18-year-old white kid in the same situation and perceive a scared child who made a terrible mistake. Same age, same act, completely different psychological frames. This is published, peer-reviewed research, and it has real consequences in how charges are brought, how juries deliberate, how sentences get handed down. The house is burning. The data confirms it. So here's where I have to be real with you. And I say this as a black man, a father, and someone who studies human behavior for a living. Acknowledging that the system is broken does not mean we stop talking about the choices that put people inside of it. Back to that burning house. If I know the house is on fire, and we do know the research is clear, then the most important thing I can do is not hand you the keys and say good luck. The most important thing I can do is say don't go in there, especially when there's no personal obligation to enter. Sadly, Carmelo walked into that burning house, as so many others do. He made a series of discretionary choices that handed a flawed, racially imbalanced system jurisdiction over his life. Is the system unjust? Possibly. Probably in ways we can document. But the system's injustice doesn't undo the choices that preceded it. Both things are true. The house is burning, and you don't have to walk in. Here's what I do with my own boys. I don't sugarcoat it. I tell them the truth about how the world works, how they will be perceived walking into certain spaces, how the same behavior can carry completely different consequences depending on who's watching, who's judging, and what implicit assumptions they bring to the table. I tell them you don't get the luxury of assuming the room will see you charitably. So you have to be more deliberate, more self-aware. Not because that's fair, it isn't, but because that's the reality we're navigating right now, son. That's not me accepting injustice. That's me equipping my sons to survive it while we work to change it. The most dangerous message we can send young black men is that awareness of the system's bias makes it acceptable to flirt with it. It doesn't. It demands more caution, not less. Hold on to these two things. First, the judicial system has documented racial imbalances that affect real people's lives. Adultification bias is real. Jury composition matters. These are conversations worth having loudly and often. Second, knowing the house is burning is a great reason not to walk in it. Stay the hell away from it. Be more intentional about the choices that could bring you to the door. We can work to build a better system, but complaining about it does nothing. So we need to hold each other to a higher standard of personal responsibility in order to move forward toward personal and communal flourishing.